Mayor Boland.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Councilmember McCune.
Here.
Councilmember Boat.
Present.
Councilmember Bertolino.
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell.
Here.
Councilmember Remy. Councilmember Edens.
Here.
Councilmember Brost.
Here.
Councilmember Garitano.
Here.
Councilmember Werther.
Present.
Councilmember Jordan.
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Here.
Councilmember Farmer. Councilmember Dillard.
Here.
Councilmember Bartoni.
Here.
Councilmember Gragnani.
Here.
Okay, thank you and welcome again. Before we go on with the agenda, I just want to mention that we have a special guest who's joining us this evening. His name is Trey Tapani. He is a sophomore at the Lafayette High School, and he's going to be doing a shadow internship with me for the next few weeks. And so I want to welcome him. Has an interest in municipal government, and I thought this would be a good way to kick off the program with him. So Trey, welcome, and we're glad you're with us. We have 6 items under information before we move to the action item. Is there anything under information that any member of the council would like to discuss or have a question about? Councilmember Bartoni.
Thank you. And I think my question is going to be for Joe. With the virtual and online permitting process, I had a resident ask me if they're putting a bathroom in their basement and they have it framed, but we're asking about inspections and permits before we get too much farther. So do they do this online, or what's the procedure right now?
They can apply online for all the necessary permits and authorizations from the city, and then we'll provide them the completed package to take to St. Louis County for the actual plan review process. If you'd like it, just have them call me.
Okay, well, and I might just have them do that, Joe, and thank you. So are inspectors actually coming out and doing house visits to look at the work that's being done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All righty. I will let them know that. Thank you, Joe.
My pleasure.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yeah, has the Wildwood Celebration Committee thought about using the city park for the celebration in October? Should we be required to do social distancing?
That particular location did not come up in discussion. We had initially focused on the 6 acres to the west of City Hall, the area around City Hall, and the parking garage. The field next to the theater became available just in the last 10 days. So certainly I can take back to the members of the commission your suggestion and see what they think.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Councilmember McCune.
Hi. So going back to the permitting document, I think Joe Vunich should probably be the best answer to this, and also Mr. Anselm. I know that we talked about in one of the committees about raising the rates of the permit fees, and asked for a summary of other cities of what they were currently charging, especially in these times that we're losing revenue. That was one of my concerns. And I think, Joe, at the podium, you said that absolutely we're way far behind on those charges. So whatever happened to that conversation?
I want to let the city administrator address that particular matter, Ms. McCune. And
Thank you.
he's getting back to his computer right now. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you. Okay, there he goes.
Mr. Anselm.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. To answer your question, Councilmember McCune, we are not quite ready with that information yet. Typically, most cities, and I would imagine in conjunction with our fiscal year as well, we would present a list of fees for review and possible increase or decrease at that time. So right around budget time is when I expect to have that information ready for you.
Okay, I think from the committee, we were talking about low staff having trouble keeping up with the violations and things like that, that I thought that you were going to look at it sooner than later, especially for mid-year was the conversation. So why would that change now?
Again, with the situation that we have going on, my focus over the last several weeks has been on our more immediate situation with regard to our expenditures and revenues. We can certainly try to have that ready for the committee at mid-year, but I don't feel comfortable making a commitment at this point.
Okay, it's a revenue, so I think it's important that we obviously pay attention to that. So I think that's, I mean, right now, especially you see how increased they are. So we could have been generating a little bit more money and we're far behind. So I think I would like to see that sooner than later if possible. Thank you.
Typically, any fee increase is going to require a sufficient period of time to notify the public as well. So even if we identified a fee that we could increase today, we would still, I would want to give 60 to 90 days to anybody who might have to pay that fee, enough time so that they could become aware of that.
Sure, but I don't want to wait, what, 6 more months and then have it reviewed and then we have 3 more months. So we're a year away. So sooner the better. I know that we're going to hit a flat and I'm sure you're going to present that in a budget at some point. So I think that we just need to make sure that this is on our radar because I think that we can generate some good amount of money for the permitting process. So I appreciate your time and your efforts, but I'd like to see this moved up a little bit further.
Councilmember.
You cut out there, Mayor Boland. Did you give me the floor?
I just called on you, yes.
Okay, perfect. A thought that I had kept to myself up until now, but since the review of input on the Village Green was up and I'm not on the Parks Committee, one thing that I would just ask the committee to keep in mind, and certainly any proposals and would be that cities and governments that have put in large water features have often had to have them turned off in the last 5 years due to drought, whether that be by ordinance or just practicality. Picture Vegas a few years ago during a drought in the summer. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of money on water features that we may not be able to keep on in the future due to drought and due to excessive heat. So just would ask that the department keep that in mind.
Thank you. Anything further, any member of the council before we go to action items? All right, seeing none.
Yes, I raised my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Jordan.
I am inquiring with respect to rural internet about an email from Mr. Gary Polinsky that was written to you, Mayor Boland, and he lives on Bouquet Road. I understand, and I didn't see where you had responded to his email. Perhaps you did and you just didn't copy Councilmember Bope and myself, but he also reached out to us. His interest, you may recall, was for in response to seeing your video online about what was being done for emergency high-speed internet. He's off, like I say, Bouquet Road. And I wonder, can you tell me, was there a response? And if so, could you please forward that to Councilmember Bope and myself? And if there's not been a response to him, will you be responding? And irrespective of any of that, what is going to be your position of that? Has it changed or is it still on the thought it would be possible, but now it's not list?
Okay, sure. Thanks for bringing that up, Councilmember Jordan. First of all, I don't recall whether he included you and Councilmember Bope on his email to me. I typically reply. If I could just finish, if I could please just let me finish. I'm not sure whether he did, but I'm happy to forward a response. I think I've had 2 email communications with them, and I'm happy to forward those to you. I believe the Director of Planning, Joe Vinich, may have some additional information because I essentially asked Joe and Basie T to look at what immediate options might be available, and where that stands at this point, I don't know. I saw several emails go back and forth, but again, I don't know that he, if he didn't copy you, I'll get that to you, you and Councilmember Bope tomorrow, what I said, but essentially, I think the more operative information that you'll be interested in, which we can also forward to you, were the communications with Basie T and Joe Vinich.
Ms. Jordan? I apologize. I just called Mr. Polinsky on Thursday evening just to talk to him. We had a wide-ranging conversation about the internet problem on Bouquet Road, particular to his situation. I would expect that he will be participating tonight during the regular session to give you all an update or his feelings on what we need to do and how fast we should do it. But he did get a response from the city. The mayor asked me to contact him, which I did.
Wanting to find out where we're at, and that we're all delivering the same message.
Right.
Especially
Sure,
at this time where we're not having the rural internet meeting. So I just want to make sure he's being responded to and that we are all in the same loop.
We will gladly get
Thank
that
you.
to you tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anything further from any member of the Councilmember McCutcheon?
I don't know if this is appropriate time to bring it up, maybe under miscellaneous. I've had several residents contact me about the leash law. And can somebody take a look at that? Because it does seem to have some contradictions in it. I know there's a confusion over dogs being able to walk close to their owners without being on a leash. And then there's also a leash requirement. So if somebody could clarify that for some residents, I'd appreciate it.
So that's not on our agenda, Councilmember McCutcheon, but what we'll do is, without objection, we'll ask the city attorney to reach out to you and maybe Joe to discuss the particular issues. And if we need to get that on an agenda, we can look at that at a later time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Dodwell.
I just wanted to say thank you to Rick and the team of people that have been working diligently to complete the 109 components, our underpass for our residents to hike through, etc. I know that that's been a long time coming, and I'm hearing lots of good things from residents on the smoothness with which things have been going through. Now, granted, we haven't had our full complement of vehicles going up and down 109 over the past several weeks, but I'm really pleased with the way that Gershenson and others have worked so diligently to get things taken care of.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything further? I don't see any hands, so we'll move into the action item, which is landscaping at the John L. McCabe Memorial Trailhead. Joe, would you like to speak to this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, as many of you will recall, 2 weeks ago, this particular matter was on the agenda for discussion purposes. As that item was presented, the City Council expressed concerns about the cost of the landscaping. Originally, the cost was approximately $10,000, but we discovered via Ms. Edens and others that part of the landscaping package was invasive type species of shrubs or bushes. Ultimately, the City Council asked that the plan be revised. So in the packet of information, you have the original $10,000 bid and then an additional $3,000 bid, which reflects taking in the invasives out and adding in the willow trees, the black-eyed Susans, and some other non-invasive plantings to address the concerns. The total cost as presented 2 weeks ago was $13,000, which did not receive the support of City Council. However, as the discussion concluded, there was a request if we could explore maybe doing a lesser landscape plan and using sweat equity to actually install it. And so the department went to the landscape architect over the period of the last couple of weeks, presented the request to him, and he came back with the plan that I think Mr. Jacquin will put on the screen now, if he wouldn't mind. And so this is the revised landscape plan. This plan can be installed with sweat equity in terms of the installations for less than $4,000. And I do want to note Land Design, the landscaping company that was the winning bidder, is offering all these materials at wholesale prices to the city, not retail, wanting to help out with this particular location. So it's a very gracious effort on their part. And I think, again, through our landscape architect and his relationship, it turned out, I think, as best as possible. Suffice to say, if the cost is still too much, we can look at other alterations. But I think what we have here is a plan that presents its best foot forward towards Centaur Road and the public congregation areas, and then leaves the remainder to take in the beauty of the agricultural area around it. So tonight, the department is offering this particular plan at a cost not to exceed $4,000 for consideration by City Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Councilmember Dodwell.
I think this is a perfect plan. It allows for us to complete this particular project at a much reduced cost. I would be more than happy to put my boots on and come out and help plant whatever needs to be planted, whenever it needs to be planted, so that we can save a few dollars. I don't know if any other council members or any other members of the community would be interested in doing so, but I think we ought to do some kind of a community outreach for this particular effort. For those of you who have not been on council before the past 2 years or so, this particular project was supposed to have been started and completed 25 years ago. I think we need to complete it now. I know we've done a lot of work with it thus far, but let's finish, let's put the icing on the cake. And so I'm going to move that we approve this particular budget that Joe's brought to us. So I'm making a motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Dodwell to proceed, suggested and recommended by the Department of Planning. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Councilmember Grignani. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilmember Grignani. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and second the motion, but I have a question. Because of the season.
Can you hold just a moment?
Sure.
Councilmember McCune was first. I'm sorry, I didn't see her hand. Councilmember McCune.
Okay, so you have a motion and a second, I take it?
I'm sorry?
Is there a motion and a second on the floor now?
There is. Did you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I want to amend the motion to postpone due to budget concerns. I'm reading other budgets from other cities, even though this is a reduction of $4,000. But if you take every project and reduce them by half, you're still expending money. We're in a pandemic. We haven't gotten the budget discussions out to see where we're at. I don't feel comfortable spending $4,000, especially people that are laid off still. I just can't support this right now, knowing what we don't know what we're going into because we haven't had this discussion. So I think that we've postponed other things. I read from the city of Kirkwood, which I do work for, there was a mass email out that their city administrator has suspended all capital plan improvement or any ongoing projects right now that are not considered essential. So until we do that, I think that this needs to be postponed. So I'm going to amend the motion and I'm asking for a postponement until we have budget discussions and we know what kind of money we're dealing with or what we're going to lose.
Okay, so the motion, just for clarification, actually will be a separate motion, not an amendment. So it's going to be a motion to postpone. But before I ask for a second, I want to get clarification on the date to which you want to postpone it. And I would ask our city administrator, I believe Councilmember Kuhn is suggesting that it be postponed until such time as the overall budget discussions can occur. Is that correct, Councilmember Kuhn?
I do, but can you please clarify why it's separate?
I'm sorry?
Why is it a separate motion and not an amendment? I need some clarification. I don't understand.
Because Robert's rules says that that's the case.
Even though I'm asking for an amendment to the motion for postponement?
A motion to postpone is a separate motion. You're not an amendment changes the substance of the motion in terms of what it does, but a motion to postpone is a standalone motion under Robert's rules, so it's not an amendment.
Okay, And no disrespect to Katie or anybody else on the panel. I can't feel comfortable spending money when I don't know what I have. So go ahead and did Attorney Young answer your question?
Well, it's not the attorney. I'm actually asking you first. So I want to make sure I'm clear. You're wanting to postpone to the point in time at which the budget discussion that was the subject of the city administrator's memo a week or so ago occurs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And my recollection is to the city administrator, that was going to occur in June. Is that correct? So that would be, let's say, the second meeting in June, just to be safe. Is there a second? Now that we have clarification on that, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Councilmember Jordan, you had your hand up first. Were you seconding?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to postpone for the reason indicated to the second meeting of the council in June. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone? Councilmember Regnani.
Yes, in view of the motion to postpone, I have two questions that hopefully will clarify that motion to some extent. For Mr. Vunich, the money that's been allocated to this proposition was already allocated in the budget, is that correct?
Money was allocated as part of the discussion of the 2019 budget in 2018. The money was allocated in 2019, and then it was carried over the remainder of that amount into 2020, earmarked for the remaining components of the project.
All right, and the second question is due to the time of the year. I mean, I know the spring has been kind of strange this year, but we have planting issues. I mean, if we don't get these plants in the ground in a reasonable period of time, we're not going to get them in the ground this year. What's our drop dead date on putting the plants in?
Well, I know there are master gardeners and others that have a great deal more knowledge than I, but I think we're getting pretty close to it right now. I would never encourage anyone to plant in June, July, August, or early September. So certainly, if the postponement is the desire of the city council, we could certainly bring it back at mid-year when we're getting more toward the fall season.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dodwell.
How flexible will the company that's providing this continue to support an at-cost pricing model, or would we have to go back out to bid for this later in the year? And number two, if they would win this, could we tell them we want to move forward with you specifically, but we would like to postpone planting and placement of these components until October of 2020, so as to ensure proper growth for all items that are provided?
So Councilmember Dodwell, I'll answer that, and the city attorney or Joe can correct me if I'm wrong. I think for that to occur, the main motion that you made would need to pass, but it could be amended as you've indicated, but it would need to pass as an action of the council at this point. And again, amended with the proviso that the actual work and the payment for that work would happen at a later date.
I'm just concerned that we postpone and we lose an opportunity where they're willing to give at-cost pricing to us later in the year. So it may be more expensive when this comes back to us, but we'll see.
Yep. So if the motion to postpone fails, that type of an amendment would be in order on the main motion. All right. Seeing no further discussion, this is on the motion to postpone. Councilmember Bertolino.
Just a comment, Crystal, I appreciate where you're coming from on this, but we all got a memo from city administrator just recently, and we have an $11.8 million reserve, and it's for these rainy day situations, which we have things like pandemics and hurricanes and tornadoes and whatever, and a $4,000 or $5,000 project that is going to, as Katie pointed out, 25 years overdue, I think is well worth our spending our money for, and I would have to vote against the postponement.
Councilmember McCune.
I appreciate all the feedback and I have high respect for all of you. My concern is that I'm hearing that we're worried that it's going to cost more. Well, there was more money allocated to that, so that's not the concern. The other thing is that, yeah, we have reserves, but that doesn't mean that it's, oh, we're in a bad thing, let's spend the money. It's just $4,000. I would rather spend more money for more staffing because there's items on here that I've given to staff that are still pending, and I'm being told that they don't have enough helpers to help out. So if we're not going to help out staff with projects that the city needs to get the citizens moving forward, and we're going to pay for plants and something that's way overdue, they're way overdue for staffing. And they've been asking for help. So how do we ignore this? And then we're going to do these 4,000, 10,000, all these other little buckets. I just can't support it. And I think that you guys should look at this because our revenues are not coming up, folks. We're getting ready to dip. And I understand we have a healthy reserve, but when you start driving that reserve down and the pool tax goes away and you have people being laid off and the unemployment rate is off the charts, and that's not going to generate money, I think we're being a little bit too flexible with our money. I think we need to fully understand the situation. We haven't, and we need to have a discussion. So again, I respect all of you. I'm very passionate about it. I think that we need to be smart with our money, as I am here. And I've budgeted to have my new carpets put in, but guess what? The pandemic hit. I don't know how my money's going to flow. So I think that we need to use our city money too to say, we don't know what's going to happen yet. This is unusual. So again, that's what I'm hearing is please watch the budget. This is our money, put it where it really needs to be. So that's why I was voted here. That's why I'm here. So thank you for your time. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass, but that's all I can say.
Councilmember Garetano.
Yeah, I was just curious. I heard a comment Councilmember Crystal McCune just said about staffing and they need help. Is there a requisition or is there something, I'm missing something here with that comment. What is it that, where'd that come from?
So we'll ask the city administrator to
answer?
respond to that.
Yeah,
it was my question and comment, Mayor. Can I remind him from a committee
Councilmember
meeting of the
McCune,
discussion?
it is your question, but I have other people on the list. I can put you back on, but I think that we'll, without objection, allow the city administrator to respond to that question since it is a city staffing question.
I apologize. If you could repeat the question, Councilmember McCune, I was at the other station.
Councilmember Garetano.
Oh, Garetano.
Yeah, I just wasn't aware of any staffing concerns that had come up. Is that something that had been communicated or, concern about not having enough staff or that, there were projects or something that they needed help with?
I haven't had any specific conversations with departments regarding staffing levels. Not at this time.
Councilmember McCune, do you have any additional information on that?
Sure. If you want me to forward you emails from staff that says that they're loaded down with stuff to do and they're at minimum staffing and they're having trouble keeping up with stuff, I'd be happy to share that with you for trouble that they're having, all the stuff that's coming in. They work hard. I'm not knocking them at all. But we were at a committee meeting. I don't know which one, but I think that Councilmember Remy was there too. And we had said, hey, let's increase the permits so we can get more help because they're not paying attention to the code enforcement because they have 3 people. I asked Mr. Vunich at the podium, would it be helpful if we gave you more help? And he said, that would be great, but I don't want to say it's urgent right now because I don't want to pull away from the budget because we just talked about that, but help would be very helpful. So I'd like not to put you on the spot, Councilmember Remy, but I think that we talked about helping staff out to help eliminate this. And we're doing our due diligence and helping the community out by enforcing these code enforcements. When people call that, we're answering those calls, but they're a 3-man band in this big city and they can't address it properly. So that was a conversation that was brought up.
So Councilmember Remy's next on the list. Councilmember Remy.
Yeah, actually, thank you. So just for frame of reference, Ms. McCune, so the conversation you're referring to is many months ago, pre-COVID. So if you wouldn't mind, as soon as this meeting's over, to present us with those emails post-COVID, I'd like to just see exactly for frame of reference so that we can address this issue for Mr. Anselm, because I think that is an important issue. And I'd like to make sure that our city staff are well supported. And certainly pre-COVID, I had some concerns at the meeting, but I'm unfamiliar with anything with the stay-at-home order. So you sound like you've got information that I'd like to see post-COVID sent to the council as recommended by.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes, I wanted to address the point Councilmember McCune brought up about how this looks in a time when folks are out of work. I don't disagree. One thing that I just want us to all kind of chew on and ruminate on is that we are in a chain system. We're in a loop, right? When we slow down work orders to private companies, that also affects the take-home pay and whether or not people are laid off in our own community. So the decisions that we make here about how to spend our money, which are very important, also affect whether or not people in our own community are out of work. If those work orders don't come in, that pay doesn't come in. So we are actually a part of that system. So just know that every time that we save money, we also hurt someone's bottom line. It doesn't mean that we don't save the money, but those two issues are not actually separate. They're very, very much connected. The other thing is, regardless of whether staff still needs help, nickeling and diming that $4,000 is not going to pay for a full-time salary employee with health benefits. But the staff has already spent time redesigning it. It's already happened. The work was already put in. So if we weren't going to consider this at all for a lower cost, then why even have them do it? Because last time when Councilmember Bros said, you know, I talked to the folks, they were interested in doing more work themselves or lowering the cost of the design. This whole council, if I remember right, seemed pretty supportive of an even lower cost solution. So if that was not going to be the case, then why waste their time? If you're talking about time being so valuable, I don't understand it. This actually, I get that it doesn't have to be done right now, but it does help community members be employed. And the other problem is that Councilmember Gragnani brought up is we are on a planting schedule. So I think we have a very short window in the spring. Otherwise, we're looking at the fall. And I'm just not sure if it's ideal for some of this stuff to be done in the fall. So that makes it a little bit different than other things we can postpone. So just keep in mind the point that I brought up. We are, in fact, employing other people in the community through the direct actions that we take in this council.
Okay, so seeing no further discussion, this is on the motion to postpone. An affirmative vote is to postpone to the second meeting of the council in June. Ms. Eldridge, would you please call the roll on the motion to postpone?
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember McCune,
Yes.
Councilmember Boat,
Sorry, Councilmember Boak, we didn't hear you.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. What?
We got it, thank you.
Councilmember Bertolino,
No.
Councilmember Dodwell,
No.
Councilmember Remy,
No.
Councilmember Edens,
No.
Councilmember Brost,
No.
Councilmember Garitano,
No.
Councilmember Werther,
Aye.
Councilmember Jordan,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
No.
Councilmember Farmer,
No.
Councilmember Dillard,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni,
No.
Councilmember Gragnani,
No.
So the motion to postpone fails. We're now back to the main motion. If there's no further discussion on the main motion, Councilmember Bros.
I've been having internet trouble, so I would have participated earlier on this discussion. But Joe, have you discussed this with the La Caves, and are they? I mean, honestly, from my standpoint, I think there's still more than what's needed, but I don't want to interfere with a direction that the La Cave family is really looking forward to. I've been to that trailhead. We use it a lot. I think the plantings that are along the pavilion area, I mean, I see people walk to and from that. I don't think they're going to stop from any direction. So I still think that there's probably more there. I still don't like the cubic yards of mulch because that's going to be every year. But I don't want to do anything that's contrary to where you are with your discussions with the LeCay family. So that, if you could answer that, thank you.
Certainly, Mr. Bros. I received the revised plan late on Wednesday and completed the report on Thursday. So I've not had a chance to share it with the LeCay family. And as I mentioned, if there are still too many plantings or the plantings aren't strategically placed, we have that option to decrease. So I guess what I continue to say is this is the plan. It would not exceed $4,000 in cost. Again, acknowledging that we would install the plantings ourselves, not have the company do it. But if there is a favorable action tonight, I can certainly take your input, have the landscape architect revise the plan and get it to the LeCay family as soon as possible.
Yeah, I just want to make sure they're pleased at the end, and my concern is not necessarily the initial outlay, but the ongoing maintenance. But I do want it to be something they're pleased with. So, I'm going to vote in favor of, because I think we need to move it along. But I just want to make sure that LeCaves are pleased. So thanks, Joe.
We'll get it on over to them if this is a favorable action tonight.
All right, seeing no further discussion, this is a vote on the main motion, which is to proceed as recommended by the department. Ms. Eldridge, would you please call the roll of the council?
Councilmember McCune,
No.
Councilmember Boat,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Remy,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano,
Yes.
Councilmember Werther,
Nay.
Councilmember Jordan,
No.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Jordan, we didn't hear you.
No.
Thank you.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dillard,
No.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gragnani,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries. That takes care of the action item, nothing under miscellaneous. We're now a few minutes past time to convene the main meeting of the council, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn the work session made by Councilmember Bros, seconded by Councilmember Dodwell, non-debatable. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion to adjourn carries. Moving into the main meeting of the council, I'd like to call to order the main meeting of the City Council for the City of Wildwood for Monday, May the 11th, 2020. Ms. Eldridge, would you please call the roll of the council?
Mayor Bolin, Councilmember Stevens,
Here.
Councilmember McCune,
Here.
Councilmember Boat,
Yes.
Councilmember Bertolino,
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell, Councilmember Remy,
Present.
Councilmember Edens,
Here.
Councilmember Bros,
Here.
Councilmember Garitano,
Present.
Councilmember Werther,
Present.
Councilmember Jordan,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Here.
Councilmember Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember Dillard,
Here.
Councilmember Bartoni,
Here.
Councilmember Gragnani.
Here.
All right, and welcome again. And before we move on with the next item, I just want to welcome anyone who is with us from the public, as well as who's watching us on live stream. And I also want to extend a special welcome to Trey Trapani. He was with us for our work session. He's also going to be with us for the main meeting of the council. He's a sophomore at the Lafayette High School, a resident of Ward 7, and he has an interest in municipal government. And so he's going to be shadowing me and doing an internship over the next few weeks. And I just want to welcome Trey to our meeting this evening. And for those of you who are comfortably able, if you'd please stand with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the April 27, 2020 work session and main meeting of the council. There are no questions on the minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion to approve made by Councilmember Bro, seconded by Councilmember Farmer. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes as presented? Councilmember McCune.
Is this going to be talked about later about the budget because we didn't approve the expenditures and how we're handling that?
I'm sorry, Councilmember McCune, I didn't hear you. I apologize.
The last council meeting, we never approved the expenditures on the minutes or the agenda, and it was never addressed. I didn't see an email, so pardon if I did, but how do we move forward with that? Since
it's on the agenda for this evening for approval.
That's what I asked in the beginning. So if we can discuss that, that would be fine. So no more.
Yeah, it's on the agenda. Okay, seeing nothing further, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed.
Raise your hand for opposed, please. Councilmember Werther is opposed. Any other opposed? Councilmember McCune? Any other opposed? Councilor Werther and Councilmember McCune are opposed. Any abstentions? Motion to approve the minutes carries. Moving next to public participation. I don't believe we have anyone wanting to participate. Is that correct, City Administrator? Okay, so no mayor announcements or appointments this evening. Moving next into public hearings, PZ 5-20 concerning the Wildwood Family YMCA. Ms. Eldridge, would you please read PZ 5-20?
A request for a change in zoning from the NU non-urban residence district with an amended conditional use permit CUP to the C8 planned commercial district upon a 9.34 acre tract of land, which is located on the west side of State Route 109, south of New College Avenue, St. Louis County locator numbers 24V410198 and 24V410187, street addresses 2633 and 2641 State Route 109. The subject property is designated Cultural Institutional Overlay District under the current Town Center Regulating Plan. Proposed use, maintain the current not-for-profit recreational land use with associated parking and related accessory activities.
Okay, thank you. Joe, do you have anything further you'd like to mention to the council relative to PZ 5-20?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a brief presentation to the benefit of the Planning and Zoning Commission's action. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, the Planning and Zoning Commission has provided for your consideration tonight its letter of recommendation regarding the request by the Wildwood Family YMCA for a change in zoning. In 1999, the particular location of the Wildwood Family YMCA was not part of town center. In fact, it was in the non-urban residential area, but a recreational use of that nature can be approved and operated under a conditional use permit. After 2000, the town center boundary was amended to address a pattern of development that was occurring in this vicinity. It included the St. Louis Community College Wildwood campus, the Wildwood Family YMCA, the petitioner tonight, and the development of the Meadows of Wildwood. Once these properties were included in the town center boundary, the zoning of the Wildwood Family YMCA became somewhat of a nonconformity, not in that it was illegal, but certainly didn't fully recognize the potential of the site. The Wildwood Family YMCA has been an anchor in this portion of town center for many, many years and has been successful in terms of its membership. The Wildwood Family YMCA is looking to expand at some point in the future, and the change in zoning will accommodate that expansion and in many regards, according to the Planning and Zoning Commission, facilitate its longevity and successfulness here in the city of Wildwood. It is important to note that the change in zoning will not alter any aspects of the physical development of the site at this time. And any changes would still either have to be approved as part of a site development plan or a public hearing for another rezoning. So again, there are checks and balances associated with the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. On page 4 of the letter of recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, they do identify the rationales for this change. And again, they are positive from the standpoint of the Wildwood Family YMCA, and I believe the community of Wildwood, but there are also a number of conditions intended to protect surrounding property owners from any potential impacts. So tonight, the Planning and Zoning Commission is presenting for your consideration its recommendation relative to a favorable action to support the rezoning of this property from the NU non-urban resident district with an amended conditional use permit to the CA planned commercial district, primarily given its placement now in the town center area. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, after any public comment regarding this matter, the Department of Planning will be available to answer any questions and respond to comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. And we have a member, I believe a resident with us, Mr. Gary Polinsky, who has his hand up. Mr. Polinsky, were you wanting to speak relative to this public hearing item, PZ 5-20, or something different?
I apologize. I'm not familiar with this format. I am wishing to speak about internet access when the time is appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, so perfect. So what we'll do, Gary, without objection, let us get through this public hearing item and see if anyone else wants to speak on that and get action from the council. And then without objection from the council, we will reopen the public participation so you can do that. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have anyone, Sam, who's indicated they want to speak on PZ 5-20? Okay. Any discussion by the council, or does anyone want to make a motion? Councilmember Stevens?
Does this, Joe, I can't tell from the map, does this affect the vacant lot that's behind the YMCA, to the south of the YMCA?
No, sir. The boundary of the new CA planned commercial district would be the common boundary, but it would not extend onto that 5-acre parcel of ground.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And thanks to Julian.
Any other questions? Councilmember Regnani?
Unmute my mic here. I want to make a motion to close the public hearing if there are no other comments.
We actually don't need a motion to close the hearing. It would just be considered closed if there's no one there. If you want to make a motion, and we don't have anyone wanting to speak, so if you want to make a motion to, what are you looking for, Joe, tonight? A motion to draft the necessary legislation?
That's exactly it, sir. Thank you.
So would you like to make a motion to draft the necessary legislation relative to PZ 5-20?
I will make the motion to proceed with drafting the legislation.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Brost. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing no discussion, roll call vote of the council, please.
Councilmember Boat,
Yes. Can't hear. Yes.
Bertolino,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Remy,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Bros,
Yes.
Councilmember Garitano,
Yes.
Councilmember Werther,
Aye.
Councilmember Jordan,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dillard,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartoni, Councilmember Bartoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gragnani,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember McCune.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the motion passes. We'll go back just briefly here to Mr. Polinsky. And since we do have a public participant, Gary, I do need to mention just a few things, as I always do, relative to public participation, just to keep everything even and fair. So there's a 5-minute time limitation. And if you have any questions for any of us, please mention that during your remarks and identify the official you would like to respond. That official will make note of that. And at the conclusion of your remarks, the official who chooses to respond will have 3 minutes to do so as to all questions directed to that official. And the official may choose to respond to your questions after tonight's meeting. We may also post any responses on the City Council page of our website. And as I'm sure you will, please be respectful in making your remarks, which means using profane and abusive language are prohibited. So Gary, thanks for being here. Please share with us your comments.
Thank you, Mayor Bolin. Hello, City Council members and City of Wildwood employees. I want to thank you all for your leadership, thoughtful words and actions during this pandemic. I appreciate the enormous and unique challenges you face in serving our community at this time. As a new resident, I wish I was here just to say hello. Instead, I am here on behalf of my family and the families of my neighbors in Ward 6 to request your immediate action on a matter affecting our livelihoods and our children's educations. Recently, per Emergency Resolution 2020-11, a response to the pandemic was initiated to begin the immediate deployment of infrastructure to bring high-speed internet service to a large number of residents in Ward 1 and to pursue the addition of residents of Ward 6. I am here to request that you expand the scope of this initiative to explicitly include Ward 6 and that you allocate additional resources as needed to ensure this gets done as quickly as possible. The pandemic has made access to reliable high-speed internet as important to many Wildwood residents as clean water and electric service. Allow me to explain how. In order to protect ourselves, our families, our coworkers, and our community, businesses have required all staff who can perform their work remotely to do so. For the same reasons, schools have required students to continue learning remotely. The most efficient and effective place to perform this remote work is from one's own home. In many cases, working from home requires daily online web conference calls. This type of professional grade web conferencing requires high-speed, reliable internet service. Residents of Ward 1 are lacking such service. Without reliable high-speed internet connectivity, our families struggle daily to operate in fundamental ways from our homes. I have spoken to my neighbors and they too face similar circumstances. I will also be reaching out further to a broader group of neighbors in Ward 6 and beyond to help assess the need and further make this case for access to high-speed internet in Ward 6. It is uncertain when we will return in full force to our workplaces and schools. A week and a half ago, for the first time in my life, I was laid off from my information technology job in the oil and gas industry. And every opportunity I am looking at requires me to work remotely. In addition to my internet needs, my fiance now must run her 20-year-old event production business remotely using web conferencing. For the first time in her career, the events she's producing for the upcoming months will not be taking place in person. They'll be taking place using web conferencing. And our two children, one graduating from high school and the other home early from college, must continue to do their learning online. Clearly, this dramatic new need for high-speed internet access will not be going away soon. To date, I have had communications with Mayor Bolin, the Director of Planning, Joe Vunich, and Ward 6 Council members, Ms. Jordan and Mr. Bope, about this issue. Your understanding of the urgency of this issue, your plans and actions so far, give me hope that you will extend your efforts to Ward 6 now. Thank you. And I welcome any comments now or later.
Thank you. And Gary, for public participation, it's really just a time for residents, as you have done, to make your remarks and so forth. And any questions we can handle and would handle outside of the public participation. So I'm sure that Council members Jordan, Bope, and I and others will be reaching out to you. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Councilmember McCune, you have your hand up. Did you wish to speak during public participation, or did you have another item?
I'd like to do public participation if I can.
Sure.
Okay. As I'm coming as a resident, do you need me to go through my address? Because I'm representing myself as a citizen. So I am in my ward being questioned daily and throughout the day as I see my neighbors outside about a postcard that was received in the mail, and it has allegations or statements that are pretty strong and appear to be backed about you, Mayor Bolin, about a lawsuit. And there's a court decision and it has some pretty strong language in it. I'm sure you've seen this. They have asked me what the council's doing for it. It's kind of interesting that it's during a campaign season, but they're also concerned is what is the council and what is the city doing to look at this matter if it's been discussed. So my question to you, Mayor, or anybody else, is that based on these strong allegations, and as we see recent emails about defaming people or saying things we shouldn't, I want to make sure that we bring attention to this and that it is me, an email sent out. What am I supposed to tell the public? Is council taking this serious? Is it true? So, you know, it's making that the Mayor Bolin admitted to him intentionally destroying information from documents. Court documents showing Mayor Bolin destroyed public records and defied orders of the judge in this court case. It names Salvatore versus the city of Wildwood. So my concern is what is the city of Wildwood doing based on these strong allegations? Because we've seen other people get in trouble. I'm just bombarded. And if you look at next door, there's conversations. I'm not in this as a political statement. I'm not in anything else, but I need to know what's right, what's true. What do I respond to people when I'm asked as a council member? And what is the statement the city or position is taking based on this public card? So I'd like to give this as a public record into our record so I can send it into Megan if you don't have one. But I'd like an answer to this at some point in time that I can release to the public.
Well, first of all, I would encourage you to first, thank you for your questions. I would encourage you to first speak with the city attorney before you formally ask for a piece of campaign literature as a council member, even though you're speaking during public participation, to be made part of the minutes. And he, I'm sure, can discuss whether that's advisable. Second, as to the broader issue, certainly as someone in the legal profession, I'm sure you recognize that it is best, given the situation, i.e. the ongoing litigation, that those kinds of questions that you're asking not be addressed in a public forum. In fact, speaking as the mayor and not as a candidate, I think that any of those discussions potentially put the city at risk when they contain allegations, true or not. So I'm, for that reason, not going to respond further. But thank you.
Okay, so I just want to be clear since you brought this up. I want to make it clear for the statement. I am here as Crystal McCune, that I live in the city. I am a resident. I'm not representing myself in any other forum. And yes, and whatever I do in profession is not a concern here. I'm asking you from a citizen, and it is a public document. I'm not saying it's a campaign material. I'll be happy to cut it because it's just statements. It doesn't have any campaign material on it.
So Councilmember Kuhn, since it is public participation, you've actually.
So I can keep talking. I didn't take up 5 minutes, I don't think.
I don't think that's the way it works, but go ahead with your question and we'll proceed. But we have to apply the same rules to you if you're going to participate.
Sure. Sure.
Kuhn, I'm trying to, if you'll just let me finish, please. So I have to apply the same rule to you that I apply to Mr. Polanski. So he didn't speak twice. And as a council member of all people, I really don't think it's a good idea. But if you have one more question or something you want to say, feel free. I think that we can have the city attorney send a closed record email to you and the rest of the council to handle this outside the public, which I would suggest is far better than raising it here, with all due respect. But if you have something else you'd like to say, please go ahead.
Again, I'm representing myself as a citizen to respond to the residents. So I just want to make it clear. I appreciate it. And I didn't mean to overtalk to you. I think we have a delay in the microphone. So there's no disrespect of over talking you. So I apologize for that. I think that that's an audio issue. So I'm finished. Thank you for listening to me. I'd like that email as you recommend, so I can have something that I can respond to the public for. It's put me in a bad situation.
So one thing to your point that we could ask the city attorney to do, assuming he's comfortable with it, since this does arise from a piece of campaign literature that I don't know is appropriate necessarily, I'll leave that to him. But if he can do it, one thing that he might do that would help you is to let you and everyone else know what you can and cannot, or should and should not say relative to the risk of the city in relation to that litigation. So I think that might be helpful, and we'll ask him to do that if he's able. So thank you for that. All right, seeing no further public participation, we go into legislation. We have no second readings. We have one first reading, Bill 2554. It is before the council and it concerns all wards. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? Made by Councilmember Dodwell. Is there a second? Made by Councilmember Farmer. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed.
We have Councilmember Werther. Anyone else opposed? Councilmember Dillard. Anyone else? Councilmember Werther and Councilmember Dillard are opposed. Any other opposed? Any abstentions? All right, seeing none, the motion for first reading passes. Ms. Eldridge, would you please read Bill 2544?
Bill 2554, ordinance adopting and enacting a new code of ordinances of the city of Wildwood, establishing the same, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, except as herein expressly provided, providing for the manner of amending such code of ordinances, providing penalty for the violation thereof, and providing when this ordinance shall become effective.
Okay, thank you. And my apology, I misspoke. It's Bill 2554. City Attorney Young, do you have anything you'd like to mention relative to the bill?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you may recall, over the past several years, the city has been reviewing a recodification of its ordinances. In, I believe it was November 2018, the Admin Public Works Committee, after approximately a year of review of the proposed recodification that we've been working on with general code, made a recommendation to the city council. The city council directed the preparation of the legislation. Then certain zoning related revisions were also made that went for public hearing before both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the city council. And the city council voted to, in March of this year, to approve preparation of the legislation consistent with the recodification for those zoning amendments. Again, this process was to update the city code, not to make substantive revisions. And this is just the final product of those several years of work.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for either the city attorney or our city administrator relative to Bill 2554? Councilor Gregnani.
Yeah, I just want to clarify the legal mumbo jumbo, if you don't mind, Mr. Young. As I get this impression from this particular ordinance, this is an ordinance which enforces the other ordinances in the sense that it gives them some teeth in case they're violated. Is that what I'm reading here? Is that what this is all about, really?
City Attorney Young.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Gragnani. Part of that was a bad reverb on my part. So could you please repeat your question?
Yeah, when I look at this ordinance, it looks like what it's doing is bolstering all the other ordinances, by putting some enforcement to those ordinances, and justifying a violation being punished when such ordinances are in fact violated. Is that what this is specifically for? Is to codify that part of the whole system of ordinances?
No, sir. We're taking the entire code that exists currently. We've gone through a process of making tweaks to it to update it to be consistent with
Right, I
state
understand
law. And the violations are then consistent with state law, and most of them have not changed. The penalties, I should say, for the violations have not substantively changed.
Okay, so that's what this is for, is to justify the actions taken on all the ordinances that have been codified. Is that correct?
Codified as amended by the recommendation of the Admin Public Works Committee.
Okay, I just was trying to get what this thing really did and what it was designed to do, and now that makes it a little bit clearer. Thanks.
Councilmember Garetano.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to thank all the members of the Admin and Public Works Committee. That was a very lengthy process. We had many long meetings going through these ordinances. And so I want to express appreciation as chair of that committee for everyone's patience in getting through it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So Bill 2554 will be on the agenda for the next meeting of the council. Moving next to resolutions, we have one resolution 2020-12 is before the council, and it concerns all wards as well. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2020-12? Made by Councilmember Bartoni. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Brost. Ms. Eldridge, please read resolution 2020-12.
Resolution 2020-12, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator of the City of Wildwood, Missouri to execute a contract with Finch Audio to provide sound and lighting services at the city's remaining recreational activities and concerts in 2020.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of resolution 2020-12, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed.
We have Councilmember Dillard, Councilmember McCune, Councilmember Werther opposed.
And Councilmember
Opposed.
Jordan.
I'm sorry. Oh, and Councilmember Jordan, my apology. Gotcha. My apology. So we have Councilmember Jordan, to recap, Councilmember Jordan, Councilmember Dillard, Councilmember Werther, and Councilmember McCune opposed. Any other opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution carries. That takes us to miscellaneous. First item is approval of expenditures. Those have been presented to you for approval. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the expenditures. Made by Councilmember McCutcheon. Councilmember McCutcheon, do you have a question, or are you making a motion to approve?
And I have a question on one of the expenditures.
Okay, let's get a motion on the floor and then we'll take your question. Councilmember Garetano, motion second. Is there a second to Councilmember Garetano's motion? Second by Councilmember Farmer. Okay, Councilmember McCutcheon, what is your question?
Yeah, can somebody please explain to me what the $26,000 is for the Pierside Lane, Lake Chesterfield?
Mr. Vintage, would you like to respond to that?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Brown can assist. As you'll recall, the harbors at Lake Chesterfield has a 12+ acre lake. The dam that farms that lake is the roadbed of Pierside Lane. After work was completed by a team of scientists from the University of Missouri, Rolla, or Missouri Science and Technology, the concerns were raised about the stability of the roadbed or the dam where Pierside Lane is located. Ultimately, City Council authorized the engagement of geotechnology to study the roadbed, meaning the dam, to ensure its stability. That work was completed, a report was finalized and submitted to the city for dissemination. The good news is the roadbed, the dam, is structurally sound, and for all intents and purposes, we just need to keep an eye on it on a cycle of every 3 to 5 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the expenditure, please say aye.
Question.
Councilmember Jordan.
So this is questions for Councilmember or for City Attorney Young. I had questioned the large $18,000 in legal expense, and some documentation was sent back on it regarding activity relative to the lawsuit and the matter that was mentioned earlier on the postcard. And with all that work being done, it just struck me. I was trying to think back the last time where we had gotten an update on the case. And I believe that's been, gosh, 7-8 months ago, if not a year, since Attorney Young and the insurance company attorney gave the council an update. Given that there's lots of activity in the amount of the expenditures that you had on your invoice, may I make a recommendation or request that we have a closed meeting at the next council meeting in order to get an understanding of what those charges are? I assume that you can't do it right now because it's an open meeting, but I don't know if we go into closed session now or we need to schedule that for the next meeting. But I think in light of the amount of expenditures and money being spent, an update is in order.
So I'll let the city attorney respond to that as you requested, Councilmember Jordan. One issue that we have relative to a closed session is that I believe it would need to be done in person. And given the various rules that are in play at the moment, I'm not sure that we can accomplish that given the number of the council and so forth. But at a minimum, we could possibly get the city attorney to provide additional information if you have further questions, or maybe just an update on the case or something like that by email and start there. And if that doesn't resolve your questions, you know, we could look at another option maybe, but I'm not sure that we can do that at this point. But City Attorney Young, do you want to speak to her question, please?
Yeah, to reiterate what the mayor said about closed sessions from a video conference standpoint, they're very inadvisable. And I would recommend against it. In terms of giving you an update, I'm happy to talk to the city's insurance council to provide a update or summary update at his availability to the city council. I can coordinate with him on that.
So just so I understand, so you're going to speak to the insurance council about giving us an update on it rather than I mean, that's great. Would love to have some kind of update on this. I'm not having gone through this. Perhaps I'm confused on the matter, but I know we've been kept abreast of other legal matters, and this one seems to kind of fallen off the map. And I'm wondering if you could explain why that update would not also come from you, because it's certainly generating large legal fees. So I think an update would be in order. My apologies. I didn't mean to talk over you there.
Mr. Hamill's the one handling the case, so I would coordinate with him to make sure that any update is as detailed and provide you the type of explanation that you would require.
Okay, when would that be received by us?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
So I understand you're committing to an update. I just was curious when that might be.
I'd have to coordinate with Mr. Hamill on that.
Reasonable, or the next?
Again, I'd have to coordinate with Mr. Hamill. I can't speak for him.
Councilor McHugh.
2 questions. I'm trying to compare the 1 and 2 on one screen. Is this the identical expenditure that was presented at last council meeting? That's my first question. Is anything added?
I'm sorry, City Administrator Ansel.
Yes, this is the same report that was provided to council at the last meeting.
And no changes?
No, ma'am.
Okay, my second question is a follow-up to Councilmember Jordan. I guess it's going to be directed to Attorney Young. Looking as the requested, I asked for the itemized bills from your office, trying to detail each expenditure and the time billed. I did see numerous different statements on these bills that you are overseeing the case and spending Wildwood's money to read what the insurance company is doing or advising or reviewing documents and charging us to do that. So if you're reviewing documents and staying abreast of what's going on play by play, which you've billed us for, I think that we are owed an update when you review those as well. So I think that I would second what she just said, is that if you're billing us for it for review, then we should be receiving an update.
So I think he's answered that he will talk with the defense counsel that's handling it about getting that. One thing I would just ask, with all due respect, is that any discussion of attorney bills that has been provided to us and to the council and me, please not take place in public session, because it is a closed session item with confidential information of the city. But you can certainly send an email, which would be a closed record that would protect the city at the same time as getting the information you're wanting.
So I have a question. Legal bills that we've been provided, they're not subject to sunshine law. Can somebody answer that? So if I want to request it as a citizen, I can't get that itemized bill. Can I?
City Attorney Young.
You're asking me to give legal advice in an open session, council member, as a council member, and I'm happy to answer that offline.
Okay, so I just want to be clear that I'm not trying to bring up anything but what's on that document. So I think that talking up this is not, it's not inappropriate. I'm not discussing details of a matter. I think a lot of this stuff is already out in the public. So I think just don't get too defensive here. I'm just asking some questions about if he's reviewing and being abreast of the situation, which I've seen on these bills, that he's reviewing and advising, that we should be advised as well. I'm not asking him to make a statement, but seconding what Ms. Jordan said was all we're asking is for an update. So if you're going to bill us, tell us what's going on.
Point
in
taken,
a closed session.
Yeah, point taken, and I think the city attorney is going to work with defense counsel in getting that. So thank you for the question and the remark to both you and Councilmember Jordan. Councilmember Remy.
I think these are good points. One question for Mr. Young, if possible, is either at the next meeting or the meeting after that, if you wouldn't mind, just given the sensitivity of a lot of closed session material seemingly making itself in people's comments on social media recently. Could you just provide some guidance for what constitutes a breach or violation of closed session? And then I'd like to just know at that point what recourse there might be. I just have some concerns that have become known in the last couple weeks, and I'd rather not put the city at further liability. And I want to make sure that our council members are maintaining equipoise for ongoing litigation. And so it's really difficult, I think, to have closed sessions if we can't maintain that most important tenet. And obviously we're not going to exclude anyone from closed session. So if you could just provide that oversight with a myriad of the different cases that we've got, just to make sure that everybody is on the same page, I would really appreciate that.
Without objection, we'll ask the city attorney to do that, as well as advising as to what remediation may need to occur as a result of the facts that you have mentioned. Seeing no further discussion.
I have one more question, please.
Sure, Councilmember Jordan.
Do we know for a fact that we cannot have closed sessions on this vehicle, Zoom? I know, like in companies, you can do it with the password, and I'm not sure if we're password protected in this or it can be done, but given that we don't know how long this unfortunate pandemic is going to last, I'm wondering if that's something that, do we know the answer of that for sure? Maybe I missed it. I just would like clarity on that.
I think the city attorney said that it was inadvisable to do it.
It's inadvisable because, even with the password situation?
City Attorney Young.
irrespective of the technological capabilities to access password, it is inadvisable to do.
Okay, but there's no specific reason for that, or you can't discuss that at this time?
Again, I'd rather not go into legal advice in public setting.
Okay, maybe in the update include that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Dodwell.
I just wanted to make the point, if all of you haven't been reading the news lately, the tool that we're using right now, Zoom, just went through and is trying to lock down their ability to safely communicate person to person or persons to persons without hacking. We've had schools here locally that are using Zoom that are getting hacked with profane and other inappropriate activities while a teacher's trying to teach a class. So I think we need to be very cautious. While I understand our desire to stay separated from each other and keep ourselves healthy, we also have to be very careful of the technological weaknesses that we may have for the variety of tools that we might be using to conduct our business. So closed session needs to remain closed session and not a vehicle that will allow individuals to either interrupt, copy, or somehow obtain information that is supposed to be in a closed session.
Thank you. So just as a reminder, the motion on the floor is the approval of expenditures. Appreciate all the questions about the city attorney's bills and so forth. If we could move back to the discussion on the approval of expenditures. We have one more speaker, Councilmember Edens, on the approval of expenditures.
I can withdraw my motion to speak. I just was going to put into layman's terms why I would be uncomfortable with holding a Zoom closed session if Attorney Young felt like I was free to share my opinion about why that would be inappropriate.
That's at your discretion, council member.
Okay. I'll wait, but I do object.
Thank you. See no further discussion. All in favor of the motion to approve the expenditures, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
We have one opposed. I'm sorry, two. I believe two opposed. Councilmember Werther, Councilmember Stevens, and Councilmember Gregnani. Three opposed, and Councilmember Dillard. My apology. See you. So we have four opposed. Councilmember Werther, Stevens, Gregnani, and Dillard. Any other opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention. Councilmember McCune, you're abstaining.
Jordan, too.
Just a moment. I want to make sure.
Can you hear me?
Councilmember Jordan, I need to communicate with Councilmember McCune right now. Just give me 1 second. Councilmember McCune, you're abstaining. Is that correct?
You've missed me several times. Just wanted to make sure.
I'm sorry, is that correct?
I'm gonna abstain. I haven't had enough time to review it.
Okay.
Also.
I'm sorry. And then Councilmember Jordan, are you abstaining or?
Yes, I'm abstaining.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I am abstaining. Yes.
Okay. So we have 4 noes and 2 abstentions. The motion carries. Moving next to the receipt and file, we have 2. Mr. Vintage, would you like to speak to the removal of an existing conditional use renewal, I'm sorry, of the existing conditional use permit relative to Sprint Spectrum?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, as with any conditional use permit and an action by the Planning and Zoning Commission, that can be subject to review by the City Council. With the receipt of this report tonight, you have 15 days to exercise your power of review. The action taken by the Planning and Zoning Commission was to grant a year extension for the operation of this telecommunications facility on the northeast corner of Clayton and Strecker Roads. The facility has been at this location for a number of years, originally approved in 1998, and it does provide needed service along 2 major arterial corridors in the northeast quadrant of the city of Wildwood. If there are any questions, the department would be glad to try and answer them at this time. Thank you.
Any questions for Joe? All right, seeing none, thank you, Joe. Moving next to the second of two items, PZ 20, 21, and 23-15, extension of time.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, this is for receipt and filing. Payne Family Homes, the developer of record for a property that is 50 acres in size and located in Town Center, has requested another extension of time to meet with the Department of Planning and then to discuss the matter with the Planning and Zoning Commission. In this particular instance, the petitioner's representative, Mike Doster, noted that the COVID-19 coronavirus has caused meeting difficulties, particularly between the City of Wildwood and Payne Family Homes. The Planning and Zoning Commission offered no objection, and the extension cannot exceed 90 days. Again, as with the last matter, if there are any questions, the department would be glad to answer them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe?
Thank you again.
Seeing none, Councilmember Garitano.
No, I think I just want to thank the student intern tonight, Trey Trapani, for being here with us. So thank you. And that's it. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? We have Councilmember Bartoni, non-debatable. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. See you in 2 weeks.